and you can see them in front of the camera here. I'll bet you can figure out which one is Ann and which one is Don. And I'm here because they are both primaries in an interesting company. And let me see if I get it right. Lobo Originals?
Yes.
Ah, all right. See, there is still a memory there. All right, and I'm going to zoom in first on Ann because I understand she was the stitcher of the group, is that of the company?
Yes.
All right, why don't you tell us a little bit, and then we'll go over to Don. How did the company start?
It started because Don wore bow ties. When I first met him, I never saw him ever without a bow tie, never a four-in-hand. And after we got married in 1941, I bought a pattern and I started making his bow ties. And as a result, all his friends liked them and they wanted bow ties. So I made them for them just for kicks. We didn't sell, or it wasn't a business then.
Right.
And so it just happened. It became a business, over the years. People wanted them and we decided to start charging.
Well, always good to make a little money.
Yes.
Now, before we go more into the business, you mentioned this marriage deal here. And I know from talking to you beforehand, Don, you said something about you were a musician.
Yes.
And there was
I was
a singer
drummer.
in your band.
Yeah, I was a drummer, and I played in all of the big or the symphony and high school orchestras, and I went to Colgate and I played in their Colgate Dons, and on the way to I joined the Delfino band, and we went on a date at the old normal school up in New Britain, and I had to pick up two musicians and Ann, and from there started a courtship. And it went on for about 2 years. I never proposed to her. The way I got her to know I wanted to marry her, I said, I think it's about time we go out and buy a kitchen set. And so then I had a small Dixieland band, and she used to sing with me, and I never paid her, so I guess she finally married me so she could get her money. And I've been paying ever since.
She figured out a way to make sure there was a little remuneration coming in.
Yeah, but music is great for relieving you of stresses and everything else.
Oh,
it's
sure.
a great thing. I try to get people who have young children to get them started on a piano or some instrument.
Definitely. So now, if you were married in 1941, you're approaching your 65th wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Not a lot of people make that milestone.
No.
Today,
Yeah, right. Not a lot of people even make their 10th anniversary sometimes. But we won't go there because that would be
And
negative.
I feel the best is yet to come.
Excellent.
I'd just like to say the two things is communication and forgiveness are two of the important ones to make a good marriage.
I totally agree. All right, back to the bow ties now. And speaking of back to the bow ties, you have some bow ties in back.
Yeah.
Would you like to bring the bow ties into the picture, Ann?
Yeah.
You brought some from the area where all of them are stored. I understand you sold the company a while back.
Yeah, that's right.
1988?
About the year 2000.
2000, okay.
Sold it to a very nice couple out in Ohio, but through problems within their family, the husband got, it's a good family, it was a good family business,
Yep.
because we all did something, my children, my wife, and myself. And he got a divorce, and she tried to run it herself, and it never made it. So it really, when you have something for 50 years and have it sort of in your blood, it really takes a lot out of you. But as I told you before, if anyone asks me if I miss the bow ties, I just tell them that Ann is in stitches and I can't tie one on anymore.
Very good.
How true.
All right, now there's these bow ties. Looks like there's different styles, different
Yes,
more formal,
there-
some informal.
Yeah. They're mostly the butterfly, which is this. Otherwise, we do have the straight.
We had
Bow.
all styles.
This is
And I
one
feel-
of my favorites with the pansies.
I
Let me
feel
zoom in
Ann
on
has
that.
sold about at least 100,000 ties.
And
I did the,
How about a chili pepper?
Chili pepper. That's pretty different for a bow tie. All right, so you were saying that you think she sewed 100,000 bow ties?
yeah, and I used to do the cutting, and I used to do the pressing. I used to do the tucking. You sew them on the wrong side, and you have to tuck them. And I had a nice shipping room downstairs where I shipped them all, and I used all little cartons from supermarkets. Such they used to save them up at Stop and Shop for me. Nice, clean little box. That could, what's the soda place? Crystal Light had a beautiful little box, and I put a sticker on the front. This box has been made. This shipping box has been made from
Recycled materials. All right. Now you mentioned that you had quite an interesting group of clients.
Oh yeah.
Some with names that folks would remember and
Well,
recognize.
I can't name a lot of them because I can't remember them, but we had top doctors and top judges. The top of the Supreme Court in Florida was one of our great customers, and we got more letters of comments that were complimentary to us. People came, and a lot of them just learned from mouth.
Word of mouth.
In other words, one man told me he was sitting on a plane flying in from San Francisco, and he happened to sit next to a man, had a bow tie, and said, "Where'd you get him?" "Well, Bow Original, Chester, Connecticut." So that was a great help. We were known very well. In fact, I don't know whether you know it or not, but bow ties weren't great. A lot of people were not making them. The big tie companies wanted to make the long ties, and that only 7% at that time were companies were making bow ties, and so it was a great thing for us to be able to get people to as customers, because we were making a beautiful bow tie. Made them out of silk, lots of cotton. They were washable, and we have great memories.
Okay, now I know one of your clients was a very well-known senator,
Yes, Paul Simon.
and then the gentleman whose picture is waiting to be shown right over there. Matter of fact, I think we'll leave the picture over there. I'll just zoom in on it. This person is C. Everett Koop, and he was the Surgeon General under what president?
You guess. You're younger than
I'm
I
not
am.
sure. I would have said Reagan, but I don't know.
I think
Reagan?
it was Reagan.
Yeah.
And then this one that was not really showing too well right now, but this is you and Ann with Surgeon General Koop.
I
And
have a story about him.
oh yeah, go ahead. We like stories.
It has something to do with Cheshire. I used to do the convalescent homes up at Cheshire and for the Catholic Church, St. Bridget's. And I used to stop to see other people that weren't Catholic. I ran into one person. I can't think of her name. Do you remember her name?
Mm-mm.
Well, anyway, it was
Power outage.
was a person who had been there a number of years. One day I happened to mention to her about the bow ties, and I mentioned one about Dr. Koop, and she said, "Do you know, I was a former nurse. I served Dr. Koop in Philadelphia for 20 years, and I was with him when he separated the first Siamese twins in the United States."
Wow.
And
That's an interesting
Yeah.
I correspond with him, not as much now because I'm very slow and lots of things I have to do, but he's up at Dartmouth College, has a little college up there called Koop College.
Koop College, all right. Now let's see.
Oh, by the way,
Oh yes, go ahead.
by the way, when he signs his name, it's Chicken Coop.
He probably signs it in chicken scratch
Yeah,
too.
right.
You have some other interests. I know that you have a very deep interest in humor, which led to a book.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, all my life I've had a sense of humor. I used to sit in my father's lap and look at those famous Saturday Evening Post cartoons. They were great. And I loved the silent movies of Harold Lloyd and Laurel and Hardy and all those. And then we come to later the Jack Benny and the television and so forth. So I just have had a great interest in it, and I've always wanted to write a joke book. And being a deacon, well, let's start before that. I was a purchasing agent, and I used to listen to some pretty raw jokes from the salesman. But 27 years ago, I was ordained a deacon, and I had to clean up my act. So the book is a clean joke book, has 200 pages. There's about 60 religious, about 40 all in the family, and then a lot of them are very popular, short and sweet, I call them, such as the Titanic had some famous coffee. Do you know the name?
Nope.
The name Sanka.
Ah!
So I published my own book through a publisher up in Canada, and I've sold 1,800. And all the profits from that book are going to the diaconate of the Catholic diaconate up in Hartford. They will use it for certain plans they have, and I laugh at my own jokes, and I tell jokes in front of Ann, and she loves and laughs just as hard. So humor is very important, and doctors of psychiatry recommend humor for relieving stress.
Mm-hmm.
It's helpful, helps in heart attacks and everything. So I call myself a purveyor of good humor.
And I'll bet Ann has heard some of these jokes a few times.
A few times, and I laugh every time I hear it. He has such good delivery when he's telling a joke that you can't help laughing.
I put in this book about 10 rules for telling a joke.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most important is use body language. And you have to, and some of them are really, you can use body language.
Right.
And you gotta be, and the one-liner end, the kick that will make them laugh, you gotta say very fast and loud and sort of laugh with it.
Yeah.
So I've had a great, it's kept me very busy. One thing I wanted to always do was stay busy if I retired, and after I retired, I of course became a deacon, as I told you, and this book has kept me busy. One other thing, I had to buy a computer to get microword, and I don't know how bad purgatory is, but it can't be any worse than learning how to run a computer, and I was 87 at that time.
Well, you're one of the few that has tried it at that late of an age.
Yes.
You're going to be 92, right? Is that what you said?
I'm going to be 92, June 27th.
An actual nonagenarian. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now let's bring you into Cheshire. You grew up in, is it Waterbury?
Yeah, 13 Baldwin Avenue on a kitchen table. In those days, some babies were not lost by not being identified.
Right.
And my mother, when she saw me, told my father, we know that Burdon, that's my given first name, was born on a kitchen table, and he's mine.
That's true. No switching there.
Yeah.
If anybody ever called you a crumb, there was probably a reason for it.
Right. And my first name is Burdon, and that name is a Scottish last name, and it was a name my father's boss had at Scoville Manufacturing. And he liked the name so much, he named me after that boss. And I think he was trying to get a raise. Now, I don't know whether he got the raise or not.
At least you're in his memory.
Yeah.
Let's bring you into Cheshire. When did you come to Cheshire?
50 years ago.
Okay.
About 50
years ago.
Yeah.
And have you always lived where you are now?
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you raised a family?
Yeah,
Yes.
you go ahead.
Yes, let's
Yes.
have Ann talk about the family. How many children do you
We
have?
have 2 children, Martin Lowe and our daughter Nancy Finkenseller,
Okay.
and 2 wonderful granddaughters.
And don't forget to my son-in-law.
a wonderful son-in-law, the best one we ever had. He's the only one. And a wonderful daughter-in-law too, Marie. And
2 granddaughters.
You can
Yes.
mention their names if you like.
Kristen and Kelly. They're
Okay.
both Finkenzellers. And my little dog, Michaela, which I had for 7 days this week,
Oh,
and had fun with her. So
I miss her, she just left.
he's off back to the house now.
Yeah.
Back to
Yeah.
their house. And you mentioned that your children were involved in the bow tie business.
Pardon?
Your children
Yes.
were involved in the bow tie business?
I just showed any of it.
yes, they
Yes. I'll say yes.
What did they do?
they did
Oh.
everything. Well, everything, but no one ever sewed. But but they helped cut. That when the Wall Street Journal
Oh, that was a tough
thing
time.
came in, the orders
A lot
were
of
coming
orders.
in, so the kids all helped.
Uh-huh.
You know, it was
That day that the thing was on the front page, Ann got a call at 8 o'clock in the morning. We knew it had gone to New York to be evaluated, whether they put it in. And I didn't even see it, I hadn't gone for the paper. So this man calls up and he says to Ann, "You can pick it up now."
Well, he said, "Where have you been all my life?" And I thought he was being a wise guy, and I almost said something.
Oh,
And I said, "Who is this?" And he said, "I'm calling about your bow ties. I said, "Where did you hear about us?" And he said, "You're on the front page of the Wall Street Journal today." And I couldn't believe it.
No one
It was
could get
such a
any Wall Street
surprise.
Journal because they went right around and bought all of them.
I bet. And I might have said New York Times earlier. I
Yeah,
should
you
have,
did.
Yeah,
It's-
I should have said Wall Street Journal. This the article here, the photocopy of it?
Yeah.
Why don't you hold that up there, and we'll see if we can zoom in on it. Look at that, Wall Street Journal, and there it is here. Don and Ann Lowe are striking a blow for the lowly bow. Detractors galore don't slow sales of these classy ties to the rich and famous, by Dana Milbank. So this had a good group of orders coming in right after this appeared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got one from Russia off the internet,
Yeah.
and we shipped all over the world. We shipped our ties into England, to China, Japan. We were quite popular.
Did they have a label on them that
Oh, yeah.
identified
Oh, yeah.
them?
I
Yeah.
guess.
It has a very classy label.
All right, you hold it up. I'll see if I can do a close-up of it.
Well, it's going to be. The thing is, it's folded. It
Okay.
isn't. You see,
I should have brought one
I
up.
can
I got
just-
away with it. Yeah. You want to stop it?
All right, I'll shut it off here. Okay, we have, Ann has gone and retrieved one, and I'm going to zoom in on it so that the viewers can see what the official label looked like. We're coming in right now. Low Bow Original. There you have it. All right. Now, you told me earlier, before we went on camera, that you used to have was it an RV with a Volkswagen
Oh,
that
yeah.
you tour?
Yeah, years ago, when craft fairs were very few and far between, we started to do some. My first fair, I'll never forget it, was out at Woodbury. And my development engineer down at Risden Manufacturer, where I worked, put a little rack together made out of coat hangers. And we went out, and I think we sold probably $10 or $12 worth of ties. But we were selling, we were doing all the Westport, Greenwich, all the top fairs in the country. Not in the country, in the New England
Yeah.
and area. And to get around, we set up tables, of course, and had a nice display. And to get the whole thing to a fair, we hooked a Volkswagen Rabbit, and we'd put all the racks and the racks that were wooden on top of the car on a ski paraphernalia, and we traveled. And we went. We were at Yarmouth at the Clam Festival. We've been at. We were in New York at several big fairs. We did a lot, and that of course added to the amount of money we made with that. But it was wonderful because we went to a lot of places we would have never gone if we hadn't picked up that kind of a way of selling ties.
One of the side benefits.
And I was head of the Connecticut Guild of Connecticut Craftsmen when we first organized it, and that is now being run, and it brings a schedule for all shows over the Northeast, and tells how much it costs to exhibit and so forth. And we never had that. We had to dig up the shows by either hearing about them or local papers, you know. So it's quite a business, the craft business.
Sure. I have a kind of a personal question for you. What brought you to the bow tie rather than the long tie? Why did you like the bow tie over the long tie?
I don't know. I think it's distinctive. It looks good. A lot of people think they're nuts that wear bow ties. There have been some wicked articles written about us. But I just like the bow tie, and a friend of mine, I think it was Jimmy Parker, taught me. It took 1 hour to teach me how to tie the tie. It's very simple to do once you learn, and I'm like a doctor. Especially what's the baby doctor? He has to wears a bow tie because something may dribble on it from the baby.
Is that Dr. Spock? Is that the
doctor, pediatricians?
Oh, okay.
That baby doctors that don't wear four-in-hand ties because sometimes the babies get a little bit.
Another profession, architects. He's working off a board and the tie gets in. Especially anyone that's working around machinery, because that can kill somebody, choke them to death before they get it away.
Well, your videographer here is a bow tie enthusiast. Yep, I never liked long ties, but I like bow ties for a specific reason, because they remind me of butterflies, and I was a butterfly collector.
I've got at least 100 different articles by top men in the country who tell them why they wear bow ties, and very few that wore the long ties, so if they like bow ties. But I put a long tie in when Ann was developing them. We sold long ties, by the way.
Yeah. And
she was developing, so I wore one to work, and one guy says to me, he said, "You look sick."
Well, I've always found it interesting that if you're wearing a bow tie with a tuxedo, you look glamorous and perfect, and men have no problem with that.
Right.
But if they were asked to wear a bow tie to work, they go, "Oh, I'll look silly," or "I'll look." It's just so funny. The different setting can make a difference.
I had a friend who went to a convention, and his wife couldn't go, and when he got to get dressed on the night of the banquet, he found that he couldn't tie the bow tie. So he knocked on the door next door, and this man came in. He said, "Do you happen to be able to tie a bow tie?" And he said, "Yes." So he walked into the room, and he said, "Do you mind lying down on the bed?" So he laid down on the bed, and the man tied the bow tie. And the man said to him, "How come you had me lay down to tie the bow tie?" He said, "I happen to be an undertaker." Is that better?
That's much better. That's a perfect rendition of that joke.
I haven't tied that joke, but lots of jokes you tell because they have something to do with the group. Someone mentioned something, and I'm a great one for tying in something with a joke. You know what I mean? And one of my big rules is never stop anyone telling a joke that's going to tell it and say, oh, I heard that one, because the people that were in that group might not have heard it, and the person telling the joke may got some ideas how to tell it better than you normally would, you know.
Right. And there's really no reason to kind of rain on their parade and say, oh, I heard that one, No. Now let's see. You came to Cheshire, and you raised your family here. Were you involved, either of you, in any groups in town?
No, because we were busy.
Busy with bows.
Busy with bows, and the kids. Martin went to Cheshire Academy, and Nancy went to Cheshire High, and so at that time we were involved in their activities and so forth. So, and we belonged to the Copper Valley across the street.
Yeah, that's pretty
which is
convenient.
very handy.
That
Yeah.
was very active. I guess it still is.
Yeah.
This field out in front, you can't show it to the people, but there was about 250,000 cabbages. You know, this is a great farming.
Oh, yeah.
Across the
country.
street. I was glad when they built homes there.
And then it came awful when they froze and
Oh,
began to
God.
decay. The smell was, oh boy.
It was terrible.
But I'm a retired deacon of St. Bridget's. I've been very active in that church. And I don't know what else.
Well, I sang in the chorale when they had one in town here,
Mm-hmm.
and enjoyed that a lot. They had a wonderful director. I don't even remember the name right
Oh,
now,
my goodness.
but
Well, I'm sure if he or she's watching, they'll know who they are. Now, you weren't here when the big plane crash happened.
No, but I remember I was at Risden. When was it? In 41?
Somewhere in the 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was at Risden, and I remember seeing the pictures and knowing where it is. And one of the first things I looked for when I got up here, I didn't know I was going to move in that area. It's right over the hill here that it crashed.
Yeah, that was a big event in Cheshire's history.
Were you in town then?
I was not, no. Matter of fact, at the Historical Society recently, someone from, I think it was Florida, sent us a piece of the actual wreckage, a little tiny, like 4 inches long, maybe like aluminum molding.
yeah.
And that's the only piece that I've ever heard of existing.
Really?
Yeah. And that was kind of a shock.
Yeah.
You know, somebody her boyfriend had picked it up, I guess,
My goodness.
either shortly after or maybe
Yeah.
when they were putting in the pool or something and dug up a piece of it. Yeah, that was a terrible thing. You have any other recollections of Cheshire that you want to share?
No, I actually loved the town when I saw it. We looked at houses in Waterbury. We looked at houses out here. Looked at 2 houses that we were in our price range but didn't like. And when when we saw this house, I don't know, Ann fell in love with it because there's a full brand new. It's not brand new now, but it was very brand new when we bought the house. General Electric kitchen, and the refrigerator was up in the wall. I'd never seen one of that before. And
They looked like cabinets there.
cabinets,
Wow.
but it was a refrigerator.
Oh.
So we had a kid come over one day with Martin, and he said, "You know, this is a good house, but it hasn't got any refrigerator."
Oh, that's cool. Well, a refrigerator is cool. Yeah, I didn't even mean to say that.
See?
They just happen. I don't know. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fade out on you. I'm going to thank you both for sharing your stories with us. And after I shut this off, I'm hoping that you'll teach me how to tie a bow tie, because I've always used, heaven forfend, clip-ons.
Uh-oh.